Hi, in this very first video, I will be talking about the signal chart. The EA, when you apply to the chart, you have settings titled Signal Chart Settings, and you have a couple of conditions you can apply to the signal chart all the way down until you get to offline chart settings, which is here. So today's video will only be about the signal chart settings. First of all, what is a signal chart setting? Signal chart setting could be a standard time frame chart or could be an offline chart. You can put the EA on, this is a Renko chart. I mean, this is an offline chart, but I have Renko here. You could have range. You can have non-standard time frame, like you can have H2, H3, H8 time frame, whatever, any offline chart. And you can apply it to a standard time frame chart. Okay, now the signal chart should have the smallest time frame. Like if you are doing a multi-time frame analysis starting from daily, 4 hour, and then 1 hour, that will be the least time frame, the smallest time frame. So it should be placed on the smallest time frame because we are going to get conditions from other time frames. But anyway, we're going to talk about signal chart today only. And for Renko chart here, the one that I'm like for this video here, I'm going to apply the offline chart on a Renko offline chart. Okay. I mean, apply the offline chart EA to the offline chart that has Renko. In this case here, I will be doing multi-Renko box analysis. Let's say I start from 40, and then I will check the 20, and I will check the 10, and I will place my EA on the 10 Renko chart. That is my signal chart, okay? So I'm going to talk first thing about something called boundaries. You see here in the signal chart, you have enable boundaries for longs and shorts. You have upper boundary for longs, lower boundary for longs, upper boundary for shorts, lower boundary for shorts. So what are these? That's the first thing I will start with. That's the most important thing for me, and I do encourage you to enable this condition. Let me explain here. Let's say, for example, you are on 10 pip Renko chart, okay? And you spot this consolidation here, this range here, and you believe that there will be a breakout or a breakout downside or a breakout to the upside. Okay. First thing, you're going to draw, similar like drawing your support, resistance, and all of that. So I'm going to draw this line. And I will have another one here. I will color it to red. So now I have an anticipated, I don't know, for example, let's say I don't know where the breakout will be. Either it's up or down. In other videos, I'll explain that you should be normally knowing, anticipating where the breakout would be. But for the sake of this video, to explain what a signal chart is, we will assume that we do not know, okay? Because you have to conduct multiple Renko box analysis, you have to conduct multi-time frame analysis. But let's say that we only have a signal chart and we are only going to trade signal chart. We are not going to take any conditions from any other time frames or any other offline charts. It's only be the signal charts. So this one here, now, when it breaks above this line, we want the EA to start going long, to buy. And at the same time, we do not want to be near to resistance level because I do not want the EA to start trading near this area here because this area is resistance. I want the EA to only trade between in this zone and maybe a little bit lower as well. Because when price goes near to a major resistance, it slows down. It doesn't have the same momentum it used to have. So that is why it's safer to go a little bit down. So I identified those boundaries for longs, and I'm going to delete this one for now. Leave those two. So the EA will only take longs between the boundaries for longs. And I will call this one, you can call it anything, you can name it anything. I will call it lower short. Lower because it's the lower boundary. Lower long, because it's the lower boundary of the longs, lower long. Okay. And I will call this one upper long. Upper long. Now I have to remember the name, better to copy paste it, because we are going to the EA here, and where it says upper boundary for long's name, I'm going to type the name, upper long. Lower boundary for long's name, I'm going to type lower long. And I will enable this to true. You can name it anything. You can say upper boundary, long, UL, any abbreviation, anything. Okay, but enable it to true, of course, before that. Okay, so now I have lower long. If I move the cursor, I have upper long. So the EA will only trade between those in this zone. So above this zone, it will never buy. Below this zone, it will never buy. It will only buy within this zone. Okay. Now let's go to the 10 pip. 10 pip was my signal chart, right? Signal chart, I applied the EA on it. You see my Renko here has a remote. That's why I keep flipping to 10, 20, 40. But if you are going to get conditions from Renko box 20, Renko box 20, or Renko box 40, another two offline charts, you will have to open them separately. But just for now, I'm flipping through. I'm increasing the number just to show you how I do my multi-Renko box analysis. So that is how I identify the boundaries, the lower boundary and the upper boundary. And then the conditions can be any. I can say, for example, that I want the condition to be a group of MAs. So here, we had our boundary here, remember? And we had our boundary somewhere, the upper boundary for long somewhere here. I will condition the MA that as soon as the candles or the Renko boxes go above the lower boundary and those 5 EMAs are stacked this way, then go long. Okay, fair enough. So I have, you can put 5 MAs up to 5. You can put 1, 2, I mean, you can put 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. It's up to you. So I have 5 MAs exponential and increments of 2. So this is 5, this is 7, 9, 11, 13. The last one is 13. So as long as they are stacked this way on top of each other, and as long as price goes above this lower boundary for longs, the EA will execute the trade. That is what the condition I will put. Another condition I can put is that I will wait for pullback bars. And where to find this is that when you open the EA, here you have enable pullback bars. Enable this to true. And you have pullback number, let's say, for example, 1 or 2. I will leave it for 1 now. I will click OK. So now I have a condition that enable pullback bars true. I have group of MAs here. I haven't enabled all of them. So I will put 5 and then 7. And then there's 7, and here are 9, 11, and 13. And those are all in the settings of my signal charts and exponential. It's up to you if you want to use linear, want smooth, simple. You can explore and find the best settings that you are comfortable with. Exponential, exponential. So now the signal chart has the 5 MAs, and I do not want crossover. So I set it to, so I will set this one to true and the crossover to false. I just want the stack of 5 MAs. I do not want the least 2 to cross each other to start the signal. No, I just want them as a stack, like as a stack on top of each other in this way, those 5 MAs, and I want a pullback of 1. So there will be one Renko box pulling back, and then when I have a new one that is resuming the trend, then I will enter the trade. The EA will execute the trade. Okay, so set OK. So let's see what will happen here. Okay, I told the MA I want the 5 MAs to be stacked on top of each other. Okay, fair enough. They will be stacked on top of each other. Now we have, when did the pullback happen? Oh, here it is, one Renko box, and then this one. So the EA will trade this one here. The EA will prompt me, do you want to take this trade or not? If I enable manual confirmation, this will happen. If I do not enable the manual confirmation, the EA will execute on its own. So it will enter here. Are we between the boundaries for longs? Yes, because I have defined, I enabled this feature, this condition in the EA. So I have lower long and I have the upper boundary for longs. Okay, so between, yes. So all conditions are met on this Renko box. Okay. What if I tell the EA I only want two pull Renko boxes pull back, not one? So here, if the EA comes here, it will not execute the trade or prompt you to execute the trade because we only have one reversal box before it. But here we have two, and then we have this one. Perfect. So we are going to enter here then. The EA will prompt you, and we are still below the upper boundary, so the conditions are true here. Let's give another example. Let's say I want, here I changed the MAs, it's another template. I have more sensitive MAs now. I have 1, I have 3, I have 5, 7, and 9. So what am I going? Let's do not forget our lines. Of course, you are going to rename them again. I will not do that. You understand? This one will be called, this is the lower boundary or lower long. And this one is the upper one. We said it's somewhere here, something like that. Okay, and in this case, I'm going to tell the EA, I want crossover. So you see here, crossover, true. I will leave it as it is. No crossover, false. I do not want it to just to be stacked on top of each other. I want a crossover as well. And then I will put again the values of the MAs. I have 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, so on. That will 1 and 3 is what we are waiting for here. We're waiting a crossover for the least 2 MAs. So the crossover always happens on the least 2, the smallest 2. So in our case was 1 and 3. So here is a crossover. This one here. It crossed over here. And then the EA will prompt you here. You guessed it right. When you have a crossover of 1 and 3, it is the same as saying a pullback of 1 bar. So I'm mimic the same condition of pullback of 1 bar. Okay, but if I have instead those bars in 5, 7, 9, and I'm waiting for 5 to cross 7, in our case, sorry, excuse me. In our case, this did not happen. We didn't have any crossover. If we go, for example, to 5 pip, so we go to the 5 pip Renko chart and we look at it. Same thing. We have, let's say, we identified our area here. We identified somewhere here. So we'll go long only between those two boundaries. Let me remind you quickly, on what basis did I draw the upper boundary and the lower boundary for longs? That was based on my multi-Renko box analysis. So because there was resistance, I anticipated here and I said I would go a little bit lower. And there was a breakout on the small Renko box setting of 10 or 5 or whatever. 4 to 5 pip again. Okay, anyway. So let's say in this case here, same thing like the 10 pip Renko box. You told the EA that as soon as you go above the lower boundary and the EMAs are stacked on top of each other, then buy. Or you give another condition. I want a pullback. And you see the pullback here to the MAs and then this candle, this Renko bullish bar, and then the EA will start here. Or you say, I want crossover. And in this case, you look at the crossover, and you have it here, for example. You had a crossover. Here on this one, I have the 5, 7, 9, and 11. And here you have a crossover. Okay, crossover happened here. But the EA will not prompt you here. The reason for this is that the EMAs are not stacked over each other. So it's going to pass this signal. And the crossover didn't happen again. So you never get prompted. The reason why I'm telling you all of this is not to tell you that if you use certain MAs, you will not get a signal or this or that. I want you on your own to understand what conditions are you going to put in the EA and what to expect. I'm going to make a separate video on how to choose the best Renko settings for intraday or for long term or later on, I will make a video definitely on that, but you have to understand what conditions should you put in your EA based on your own analysis, based on you examining the chart, based on you scrolling back and see if this Renko box is suitable or not. And should you add more conditions to the signal chart, because you can add too many conditions that you won't get a signal, or you add very few conditions that you keep getting signals and they are not all good ones. So you need to find a balance. You need to find somewhere in the middle. I myself, normally what I would do is that if I choose a 5-pip Renko box, I will just tell the EA to trade. I want the MAs to be stacked and a pullback. And that's it. I want to choose, I will not choose the crossover. Pullback or if I'm really confident about the breakout, I don't care about the pullback. I'll just tell the EA to go long as soon as it goes above this line and the MAs are stacked. And maybe I will not give the EA another condition to trade on pullbacks. Just leave it like this. And we have the trail stop, trail step, and the trail above. All the trailing features that I have in a separate video, I will tell you about it. But so far, the EA would have executed the trade I want. And for this big correction here, there were no trades executed because they are all going down against the trend. This area is only for longs. The MAs even are not stacked either above each other or below each other. It's like a net here. There is a change of direction, change of bias. And then when it goes back up again, it resumes the trend and we get separation, nice separation between the MAs. As soon as the EMAs are separated from each other, they are not equal to each other here or not in the right order. As soon as they are in the right order, then the EA will execute, either prompt me or execute on its own, depending on my settings. And it will execute the trade. So that is how I would normally trade it myself. You can change the settings of the EMAs. It could be more sensitive. It could be more lagging. Those are, as I said, 5 EMA and increments of 2 all the way to 13. You could have them linear weight. You can have them smoothed. Smooth will make them more lagging. You can have them simple or, whatever. And you can change the inputs, of course. You don't have, you can have 20, 30, 40, 50 EMA, up to you. Okay, just an example, and you explore and find what's the best setting for you. Okay, so now to summarize everything, we are talking about signal chart here. What is a signal chart? Signal chart must have the smallest Renko box size or have the smallest time frame. We have a couple of conditions. We have MAs and we have pullback. Okay. And we have crossover between the MAs, or we just have the stack of MAs without the crossover. And the third condition, we have the pullback towards the MAs and resumption of the trend. One last thing I will talk about here about the pullback has to do with the, here you will see pullback bars minimum size, signal bar minimum size, signal bar maximum size. This is not for Renko. This is for, if you are on a Renko chart, just leave this to 0, ignore it, okay? Just ignore it. And pullback bar minimum size, ignore it. All what you need to do is the pullback bars number. You want a pullback of 2 or 1, 3, 4, whatever. That's all what you need to worry about if you are going to use pullback on a Renko chart. Let's go to a time frame chart. Time frame chart could be our signal chart, as I said, okay? Could be M15, M5. It depends on your multi-time frame analysis. If H1 is the smallest time frame, then go ahead with H1. If it's M15, the smallest time frame, then this will be the settings. You put the EA on. And if I put the EA on, let's have MAs first. Okay, so I have this dark template here. Okay, so I have, what MAs here I have, for example, 6 here, and then I think that one is 7. Okay, so this one should be 5. It could be any, I just choose 5 for demonstrating here. So I have 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and they're all exponential. What I'm after here is that when I have a pullback, I'm saying that I want 2, 3 bars in a row, pulling back. So for example, I have 1, 2, and then the signal candle, which is this one, I want the pullback bars to have minimum size of X or Y, and the signal chart have minimum size and maximum size. So that is if you don't even want to use it, this feature, you can leave the settings to 0. You here pullback minimum size can leave 0, 0, 0, 0, all zeros. Just put the pullback number here if you want. I would myself use the pullback more for Renko. I wouldn't use it really for standard time frame, but I know people who like to trade with pullbacks as well in standard time frames. So I have put this option and added the other options, which is the minimum size. And so here we are saying that the pullback should have a minimum size of X, while the signal one is the one that is going up in our direction after the pullback, the one that will initiate the signal on the next bar. So this one should have a minimum size of, let's say, 5 pips and maximum size of 20 pips or so, for example. So we don't want it to be really long candle. Otherwise, we are entering too late. Imagine, let me imagine if the high here went all, if the candle body went all up to here, for example. So you do not want to enter here. You do not want to enter above this level here, because if you enter above this level here, we're way far from the MAs. So that is why you can restrict that this signal chart, which is this one here, signal bar on the signal chart. This signal bar here should have a maximum size of, I don't know, maybe 20 pips, 10 pips. It depends on what time frame you are in and what pair you are trading. You are going to you are going to find, like, for example, it's easy when you look here. You can see the minimum here. So you have 10 pips here. So this is relatively big compared to other candles. So maybe you do not want it to be more than 15 or more than 10 pips. So that is your maximum, and your minimum is 2-3 pips, for example. Just for example, for this time frame here, the M15 on this on USD yen. So you have 2 bars in a row, pullback, and then a signal one, and then you enter here. Okay, it's the same thing. I myself honestly like the pullback feature more on a Renko chart, more appealing. But again, I know that some people, some traders prefer to use time frame charts. So I have this option for them. Added another option of choosing the minimum size and the maximum size for the signal bar, and only the minimum size for the bars that are pulling back towards the MAs. And of course, the last thing I want to say is that you do not even need the MAs. Like, you can have pullback without MAs at all. Like, just the MAs to make sure that we have a healthy trend. Like, we are going in right direction. When the MAs goes around each other, or like the third one goes on top of the one above it or whatever, that means that the trend is not that strong anymore. It lost its momentum. So you don't need the MAs, as I said. You can just cancel them, delete them, or not apply them in the first place, and you can disable them from the EA. So you see here, signal chart to crossover, we said false. Enable signal chart to no crossover, false. So we have 2 false. So all of those settings will not apply, because we already we neither have the crossover nor we have the no crossover. Both are false. So that's it. So no MAs, it will all depend on pullback. So if I have a pullback of one, so I will enter here. Pullback of 1, minimum pullback of 1. So this one satisfies the condition, because before it there was a pullback. We enter here. Pullback of 2. Oh, here we didn't satisfy condition because we only had 1 pullback. But here we have 2 minimum. The last 2 were bearish ones. And then we got the signal one here. And then we will enter here on this one. The EA will enter on this one, the new bar, and so on. But that's why I was telling you about the MAs, because if you remember the EMAs when we're here, we're not like in the right order. So the EA wouldn't have traded this one. It would have waited until there is a clear separation between the EMAs. It is a bit more lagging, I agree, but at the same time, we are not sure that this is a deep correction here. maybe price will go back down, and doesn't go up again. So we just want to make sure that we are on the right track. And of course, it's up to you. Decide what you want experience with it. Okay, so that was all for the signal chart. If there is anything, if you are on YouTube, because please leave it in the comments. If you are watching this from the MEQL market, I have a blog, you can check the blog. You can ask me anytime, you can send message to me, you can make a comment, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye for now.